If you like this content, please support Unfound at Patreon, YouTube, and or PayPal. Aliyah Boomer was a 27-year-old from Brooklyn, New York. She was a nursing student who was very close to her family. On the night of August 15th, 2015, according to Aliyah's girlfriend, she left the apartment where they lived to attend a barbecue. Aliyah never arrived. She was never seen again. I'm Ed Denzel, and this is Unfound. Trust. It is one of a few qualities that forms the basis of our existence. Without it, there would be nothing but paranoia in our lives. We would view each other, the machines we use, what we see, what we hear, what we feel, with such doubt that we would never feel secure about any decision we had to make. Of course, in disappearances, trust plays a huge role in trying to determine the true circumstances. Can we trust what people are saying or said, even sometimes Unfound's own guests? As examples, for Rouse Chapman, do we trust the family friend who says she saw him in Florida months later? For Jamie Bowen, do we trust her sister's version of events on that day? For Harry Milligan, do we trust his friends who say they don't know what happened to him and his car? In fact, on Unfound, we've even gotten to the point of questioning our trust in phone records, pings, video. It seems nothing is beyond skepticism. Well, with Aliyah Boomer, you're going to hear about a very common disappearance scenario. However, this time we're not being asked to trust a man. Instead, can we believe what the woman said? And now a summary of the case. This is brought to you by my friend Megan Lionez's website, charleyproject.org. Aliyah Boomer grew up in a very religious family. In fact, many members, including Aliyah's own mother, are pastors with their very own churches. Aliyah had a great personality with a life of the party vibe. As for work, she kind of jumped around from job to job in her 20s until she decided she wanted to become a nurse. So Aliyah started her education in that field. Along the way, she met Kim, her girlfriend, who was much older than Aliyah. However, that didn't seem to be a problem, and they had been a couple for 4 years at the time of Aliyah's disappearance. The only negative points about Aliyah is that she could have liked alcohol and marijuana a little too much. So, on August 15th, 2015, Aliyah and Kim had attended a barbecue organized by some of Aliyah's friends. Everyone had a great time, and by all accounts, it was uneventful. After this, though, Aliyah and Kim had made plans to attend another barbecue in a different part of Brooklyn. Instead, the two went back to Kim's place. According to Kim, a discussion turned into an argument about going to the other get-together. Aliyah wanted to go, Kim did not. Ultimately, Kim says she gave Aliyah $20 for a taxi to go to this party while Kim would stay at home. Aliyah left. She was never seen again. Unfortunately, no one became aware of Aliyah's disappearance until 3 days later, with Kim thinking Aliyah had gone to her family's house due to their argument. With disappearances like Aliyah's, our understandings of relationships, human behavior, and, dare I say it, life itself are challenged as we try to figure out if people can really go missing like this. Tap into your own beliefs on those three topics as you also try to answer these 3 questions during the interview. Number 1, how would your thinking change, if at all, if this were a heterosexual relationship? Number 2, does Kim's explanation for not being concerned that Aaliyah didn't come home that night seem conceivable given your relationship experience? And number 3, is there more to an anonymous letter sent to Aaliyah's family than meets the eye? Aaliyah's family refuses to believe she would have just walked off. The guest for this episode is Aaliyah's aunt, Tasha Rice. Unfound news. A new Unfound now is out. The disappearance of Aliyah Turner from Tomball, Texas. This is the first of the series in which I've talked to the family before producing the episode. I also need to thank John Lorden for connecting me with Aliyah's parents. Next, yes, if you've heard the rumor, it's true. Steve Pankey did respond to the letter I sent to him in jail in July. He sent me a 2-page handwritten letter back. If you'd like to know what it said, please find the August 7th Unfound Live episode as a podcast or on Unfound's YouTube channel. Finally, I did an interview with CanvasRebel.com. Not sure when they will post it, but keep your eyes peeled. I'm so happy to have on this episode of Unfound the aunt of Aliyah Boomer, Tasha Rice. Tasha, welcome to Unfound.
Thank you.
Let's start here. Just like I said, you are Aliyah's aunt. So, are you her mother's sister or her father's sister?
I am her mother's sister. Her mother is my older sister, and she is the youngest of her sisters.
Oh, okay. I gotcha. All right. And just talk a little bit about the Boomer / Rice family. I mean, how many sisters and brothers or aunts and uncles does Aaliyah have? What can you say about that?
Okay, my mother, she has 5 children. One which is her mom. The other 4 is her aunts. My mom only had all girls, so.
Wow.
No uncles, so girls.
Okay.
And Aaliyah's mom had all girls as well. So she has her oldest sister, Vikisha, then her sisters, Vanessa, and before she's the youngest.
Wow.
And she has, and Aaliyah has nieces and nephews as well, which she was a big part of her niece's life.
Okay, very good. All right, so we got a lot of females in this family. Does that go back generations? Is that just how it works out?
Yeah, that's how it goes.
Oh.
My aunt had 2 boys. She was the only one. She had 2 boys, which are my cousins. And then one of my sisters, she had a few boys as well. So we got some in the group in there.
Okay, all right, thank you. All right. And I'm not in here to get into where you actually live now, Tasha, but growing up, of course, we know this disappearance happened in Brooklyn in New York City. But is that where all of you were raised, or did you grow up somewhere else?
No, we was born and raised in Brooklyn, New York, on Chauncey Street. My family, the Hunts, the Boomers, very well-known family, very large family, and we are a very close-knit family.
Okay.
All right in Brooklyn.
Okay, very good. All right, so all of you, and you're not there now. Like I said, we're not here to get into that. But all right, growing up, very familiar with the surroundings, Brooklyn, in New York City. Okay, very good. What can you say about her personality, her interests, her hobbies? We have to remember that, of course, this disappearance happened in 2015, and that she was in her late 20s, 27 years old when she went missing. What can you say about Aaliyah as a person?
Aaliyah was this girl, and I'm not just saying this because I'm her aunt. She was a personality, the life of the party, fun, a jokester. Um, she loved family. She was very close to her mom and her two younger nieces. Like she would take them to their dance recitals, to anything that had to do with their schooling, any activity at school, media. Just loved to her family. She attended church with her mom as a pastor, so she attended church with her mom often, and she just loved life, and she loves her family.
You said, I think I knew this. It's not in the outline that we're following here, Tasha, but I forgot that you said her mother was a pastor.
Yes.
Wow. How was that? How did how did you feel about that? Was she? I guess she had a calling then.
Yeah. All her life, we come from a family of ministers,
Oh.
pastors, bishops. My grandmother was a bishop. My mom was a minister. My cousins are elders, and my sister Aaliyah's mom, she was a minister, and then she became a pastor.
Okay. And how do you think Aaliyah? She was cool with that. Having sometimes pastors. Of course, we usually think they're men, but of course we know there are women out there. How did Aaliyah deal with having a mother as a pastor? You think it was a little more strict than usual, or what?
No, she loved it. Like I said, she attended church with her mom on many um, that the program. She would make sure she would be there. Well, by the time my mom became a pastor, she was already an adult. So she grew up in church. So it wasn't foreign to her.
Okay.
We all did. Going to church every Sunday. So it wasn't foreign to her. But by the time her mom became a pastor, Aaliyah was an adult already.
Okay. Gotcha. All right. And how much, maybe going back to when she was like maybe 10 or maybe into her teen years, did you have a lot of interaction with Aaliyah? For example, did she ever come over to your house? Did you ever babysit for her? Things like that?
Yeah, we were all together. My mom's house in Brooklyn on Chauncey Street was the pivotal point for all the family to meet. And like a everyday thing, like something you would see on a movie where everybody just drops every day. There was no reason to go. You just stop. See mom or grandmother, because my grandmother was alive at the time. Aunt. Everybody stopped and we would sit on the steps and the kids played together, especially in the summertime. And because Aaliyah was close to my oldest son's age. So they used to play. And before I moved to Charlotte, I moved to Connecticut. And she used to come on up to Connecticut to weekends with us. And so she was always around her family.
Okay, very good. What about education? Did she graduate high school? Did she go to college? What did she do in that part of her life?
Yeah, she did. She graduated high school, and at the time of her disappearance, she had just started school.
Okay.
Her goal was to become a nurse, so she was in that program to nurse.
Okay. So it's like a 2-year program, 4-year program. I guess going to some school right there in New York City.
Yes, it was a 2-year program. It was a 2-year program. I believe you have to start and get to a certain point before you can move on to the next. But I believe it was a 2-year program. Measure Evers.
Okay, so.
If I'm mistaken.
So deciding, and you should know, I know 2 young women who I know fairly well. They also decided to become nurses like in their late 20s. They kind of did other things for a while, in their early 20s. I'm not sure they ever could have thought they were going to be nurses, but that's eventually what they decided to do. So this is very familiar to me. But what did she do for work, in her earlier 20s before she decided, I want to be a nurse? What did she do?
She had jobs. Working as an administrative assistant for a company, just various. She didn't have like one steady occupation. She would be administrative assistant for maybe a year or so, And then she went with customer service at another establishment. So she didn't have one steady career occupation. So she decided that, okay, hey, this is what I think I want to do. I want to be a nurse.
Right. She kind of tried some other things out and then made that decision to be a nurse. And we know a lot of people are making that decision, here in the last 10 years. Of course, there's a lot of money to be made. It's a very rewarding career. Makes all the sense in the world. Okay, so those are some things. Outgoing, very close with her family, starting a new venture in her education. And so let's move on to this. Let's talk about the relationship. Of course, this is going to become relevant a little later in here, but in this interview that we're doing, and I should say we're doing this interview on July 25th of 2023. Let's talk about the relationship she had with, I guess it's her girlfriend, Kim. Just in general, how long were they a couple? Do you know how they met? And my understanding is there was a bit of an age difference here. What can you say just in general about Kim? How did your family feel about the two of them being together? Were they a good match? Things like that.
Honestly, I've met Kim on a few occasions. I didn't have a problem with Kim. The times I've met, she's come to North Carolina, and she was never disrespectful or any way, I never had any impressive towards her. She was okay. Of course, my family, the other members in my family, didn't like it because it was a sex relationship.
Okay.
And then a fairly large age gap, like maybe 30 years.
Oh, my goodness.
Yeah.
All right, so what we're saying here is that Aaliyah, when she went missing, 27 years old. So you're saying at the time that this happened, Kim might have been 57.
Yes.
Wow. Okay. And going back to this, and once again, I realize that Aaliyah, of course, is not your daughter. She is your niece. I realize you weren't following around. You have your own life to live. But any idea how she and Kim ever met?
No, I'm sorry. I don't know how to
You don't know.
I'm not.
Okay.
Through a friend. Yeah. No, I don't.
That's fine. Okay. And as best as you can estimate, how long were they a couple before Aaliyah went missing?
About 4 years.
4 years. Okay. And how would you say, once again, maybe you're getting a lot of this information secondhand, maybe from Aaliyah's mother or other people. How would you say the relationship was? How would you portray it?
Well, from what I know, of course, secondhand, is they did have a tumultuous relationship.
Okay.
Yeah, they argued a lot and fussed a lot. Yeah. So, I mean, they would make be back together, but it wasn't together a little close.
Okay. All right. So approximately 4 years, they're together. Big age difference there. And does it sound to you like Kim, for example, was supportive of Aaliyah, continuing her education to be a nurse? Do you know anything about that?
Seemed and supportive of her. She seemed to. We've never heard Aaliyah that Kim didn't want her to pursue it. So she seems to have been very supportive of Aaliyah's wanting to be a nurse.
Okay. Do you know anything else? Of course, we're going to talk about how Kim does have a couple children, but do you know anything else about her? Did she originally from New York City? Do you know what work that she had? What did she do for a job? Anything like that?
I don't know what her occupation is. I mentioned she was gainfully employed. Seemed very responsible. Took care of her home and helped Aaliyah as well sometimes. But exactly what she does, I'm not sure.
Okay, very good. Let's move on to this. Of course, moving up closer to the time that Aaliyah went missing, your understanding about the living situation, was Aaliyah living with Kim, or was kind of Aaliyah, maybe living, going back and staying with her mother, maybe depending on if she had to go to school. What is your, understanding of what the living situation was in, let's just say, the year 2015, the year in which she went missing?
She was back and forth living between her mom and Kim. Mm-hmm. Sometimes she would stay years or weeks with Kim, but she would always go back home to check on her mom or call her mom if she decided that she wasn't, going back there for that day or so. So she split her time between both places in Sheepshead Bay and Red Hook.
Okay. And maybe just me, because we're going to get into Kim, where Kim lives and everything, but how close was it between Kim's place and, for example, where your sister Aaliyah's mother lived? How close are these two?
If I have to guess, I'm going to say maybe 15, 20 miles.
Oh, so not close.
No, not close at all.
Not close. Okay. And so that would be when you say, so driving it or something would take quite a while, especially in New York traffic, right? For example.
Right.
Okay. All right. So they don't live very close to each other. And did Aaliyah have a car, or did she take the well-known transit system in New York City? What did she do?
Yeah, she took the transit city, or she would take taxis. She didn't have a car.
Okay.
She knew how to drive.
Okay. And it's funny you bring that up because, growing up in Pennsylvania, when I eventually moved to Las Vegas, I met people who grew up in New York City, and they never got a driver's license till they moved to Nevada. They were well into their 20s, and they moved out there for whatever reason, and their first driver's license wasn't from New York, it was from Nevada. Very interesting. So I'm glad you brought that up. That yes, she did know how to drive, but she just didn't have a car. Very good. Okay. Overall, just is best a feeling as you can get looking back at that time. How was your family overall feeling about Aaliyah's life, where she was in her life, the direction she was pointed, the relationship she was in? Overall, were they feeling very positive about it, or would you say that there were some worries?
There was some worries, again, because, she would not keep gainful employment. She would change her mind, decide to do this or that. And her mom, of course, wanted her to get one thing and stick to it and say, you're getting older now, and mm-hmm. You need to figure out what it is and what path you're going to go. So mm-hmm. there was some, concerns, but Aaliyah's very, very intelligent. Like, mm-hmm. she excelled in very smart girl. But, when you start getting old in the age, you be rebellious and you just steer off a little bit. But she was coming back. Mm-hmm. She was coming back. Get on the road to be a nurse.
Yeah. And, I have to ask you something about the relationship with Aaliyah and Kim, the way you understand it. Was this a situation, do you think, where being that maybe Aaliyah didn't have steady employment, and do you think that Kim was giving her money? I think, let's just say for what it is, in heterosexual relationships, when you hear about, let's just say, an older guy, like 30 years older than a woman, people usually think, well, she's a kept woman or something like that. Was that going on with Kim and Aaliyah, or would you say that the relationship was more even, as best as you can tell?
Definitely, Kim was taking care of Aaliyah.
Okay, very good. Thank you. And this is just the next question is just a standard question I ask in just about any interview. Did Aaliyah have any addictions, alcohol, drugs, gambling, anything like that?
Yes.
She did. Okay.
Yeah, she drank, smoked around.
Okay. All right. Thank you for being honest. Thank you for being honest about that. Okay. Moving on. Of course, you were not there this day of August 15th, 2015. But what is your, of course, I don't think you were, if I understand, if you're living then where you live now, you were nowhere near here. But what is your understanding about what went on August 15th, 2015? I guess Aaliyah and Kim went to a party. What do you know about all of that? And we'll just go from there.
Okay, so they went to a party, cookout in Prospect Park for some friends that Aaliyah knew. And I actually did speak to the guy that had the cookout, and he confirmed that they were there. And there was no altercation or anything that took place. They were just there having a good time. So they did make it to that cookout and stayed for a few hours before they decided to leave.
Okay. Could anybody remember anything upsetting? For example, them getting, how did the two were getting along? Anything like that?
Yeah, no, the guy that had the barbecue, he said that there was an out of place, or for him to say that they were angry, or everybody was just having a good time.
Okay, very good. And I should ask you this: your impression, maybe just to concentrate on Kim for just a moment. How do you think, maybe what you know now, 8 years later, how did Aaliyah's friends feel about Kim, or maybe they had maybe a lot more interaction with Kim maybe than your family did? How did they feel about it, as best as you can tell?
Well, the few friends that Aaliyah did have, and she mainly hung out with her sister, her younger. Well, it's her older sister, but they were supportive of their relationship. They didn't have an issue with it, or from my understanding, didn't put them together or thought that it wasn't a good idea.
Okay.
So what I know, the friends never said anything bad towards it.
Okay, so you don't think there was anything like when Kim wasn't around, they were saying to Aaliyah, you really, maybe you got to get out of this relationship, or anything like that your friends have ever told you?
Not the friends, no.
Okay.
Of course, the family. Has, but no, from what I know from the friends.
Okay, very good. Thank you. All right, so they're at this park, this barbecue, and this is the party this barbecue is being held by one of Aaliyah's friends, not one of Kim's friends, but one of Aaliyah's friends. Correct. Okay. And so, what is once again your understanding of what happened next? So that's barbecue, and they leave. And what is Kim said about all this?
They leave the barbecue, and this is coming from Kim. This is what she told me personally. Okay. They left the barbecue, and she wants to go home. She was tired. Aaliyah was invited to another barbecue that's in Brownsville, Brooklyn, and she told that person that she was coming, and Kim said didn't want to go. She was tired, and she said Aaliyah insisted on going, and was upset because she didn't want to go. And she said Aaliyah said she was going anyway, so she gave her $10 or $20 and told her to take a taxi there.
All right, and then that is the point that this disappearance starts. That Kim says that Aaliyah left her place and was never seen again.
Exactly.
Okay, let me just maybe break this down a little bit more, some of the technicalities of this. Did Kim, Aaliyah did not have a car. Did Kim have a car? Do you know?
I don't know. I don't believe so.
Okay. So when they left that barbecue, do you believe they took like a taxi back to Kim's place?
Yes.
Okay, very good. All right, so they're at this barbecue. They get a taxi back to Kim's. Aaliyah wants to go back out. Another friend's having another barbecue. I'm guessing this would have been pretty late at night, though, right?
Yes, it was closer to midnight.
Midnight. All right. So Aaliyah wants to go back out. Kim doesn't want to, but she says, if you want to go, here's some money to get a taxi. And Aaliyah walks out the door, never to be seen again. We're going to get into that in a little bit. All right. Your understanding regarding the second barbecue that night, do you believe that Aaliyah and Kim had said they were going to go and then Kim backed out, or was this just something that Kim at the last moment said, I just don't want to go? What is your understanding? Did they actually really plan to go and Kim changed her mind, or what? Can you even tell?
I believe they planned to go because the person who was having the second barbecue said that she Aaliyah earlier, and Aaliyah told her that she was coming.
Mm-hmm.
So I'm assuming Aaliyah and Kim decided they were going to go, but after the first barbecue, you know, she was tired. They probably had a few drinks, and she just didn't want to keep partying.
Okay. All right. You know, and that might be a sign of the age difference. You know, of a 27-year-old to a 50-something-year-old. No matter what kind of relationship it is, there's different, you know, different wants and needs, and you know, staying out late changes maybe as you get older. I know that feeling being 52. Okay. Moving on. So we're now moving into August 16th of 2015. When did, as best as you can tell, when did somebody start noticing, you know what, something's not right? Whether somebody was trying to call Aaliyah or email her, or she was supposed to be somewhere and didn't show up. What was the first sign that, you know, something wasn't right?
3 days later, which was her mom's birthday, August 18th.
Wow, 3 days later. Okay.
Right, because she figured Aaliyah's an adult, that she stayed out sometimes, and so it wasn't unusual for Aaliyah not to come home some nights.
Okay.
She was alone at that point. She got a little alarmed when she called Aaliyah, maybe the first day Aaliyah didn't respond, but again, she didn't come because that was not unusual. But once her birthday came and she called Aaliyah and Aaliyah didn't call her or come home, everyone knew that something was wrong because Aaliyah never missed her mother's birthday.
Of course.
Never.
And I want to be clear on the date here. So would that have been August 18th or August 19th?
August 18th.
August 18th. So, all right. So August 15th is the barbecues. And then August 18th, she is supposed to be at this, for this party, of course. We all want to be at our parents' birthday party. She doesn't show up. Am I then under the understanding that Kim didn't do anything, for example, on August 16th? Because the story is that Aaliyah went off and Kim would have had to have been expecting her to come home at some point. That Kim, for example, never called Aaliyah's family to say, you know what, I haven't talked to Aaliyah in a couple days. Nothing like that happened.
No. She never called us to say that she thought Aaliyah was missing or that something was wrong. She didn't at all. We had to call her.
Wow. Okay. Did somebody? What did Kim then say? Let's say on August 18th or August 19th, when she finally got tracked down. This is just an example, Tasha. Aaliyah's mother calls Kim and says, she didn't show up for my birthday party. Have you seen her or heard from her? And what did Kim have to say about that? Do you know?
That same story. I haven't heard from her since the night she left my house after we left the party.
Okay. And did somebody eventually track down the people who were holding the second barbecue to verify if Aaliyah ever made it there?
I did, yes. I found her on Facebook, and I sent her a message, and she said, no, Aaliyah never showed up, and she was watching it because Aaliyah promised her that she would be there. So she said, no, she not.
All right, so we have verification that something between Kim's place and Aaliyah planning to go to this barbecue, something happened in there. But unfortunately, as we know, sometimes we know time is so precious in these disappearances. Unfortunately, it seemed nobody did anything until August 18th. And even the woman that Aaliyah was living with didn't feel the need to call anybody or anything like that, or even try to track down Aaliyah until she got called on August 18th. Okay, very good. When did the police get alerted? The 18th and the 19th, and did they do anything, I guess, substantial?
Absolutely not. They were protected. My sister went to the precinct near her home and she said Betty. And do a missing person report to say that Aaliyah was missing. They actually heard that she needed to go to the precinct on the other side of town where she was presumed missing at. So it was miscommunication and forth for a couple of days before a missing persons report was really taken. So I would say probably every 5.
So now we're looking like at August 20th, something like that,
Yep.
21st?
Yep.
Okay. And regarding the police, did they go over to Kim's? Did they talk to her? Of course, please.
They did. They went over and talked to her, and they just got a statement. Told them exactly what she told us, and
that was it. Okay. All right, now we're going to get into, and of course we know this disappearance is still unsolved, and we are coming up on, unfortunately, the 8th year of her missing, being that we're doing this interview on July 25th, and she went missing on August 15th of 2015. Let's get into some of these things now a little bit deeper, Tasha. First, starting with, what other things are missing besides Aaliyah as a human being being missing? What about her phone, her purse? Are there any other things that are missing?
Everything that she had on her that day, which phone, her purse, and of course, clothing and everything. Nothing has been found, and the phone was going directly to voicemail. The whole time.
Okay. Very good. So, as an example, when she doesn't show up for this birthday party, everybody starts calling her. It's going right to voicemail.
Correct.
Okay. What about her purse? Was her purse left behind at Kim's, or is that also, or if she had some sort of bag or something, was that left behind at Kim's, or is that something that's also missing?
Yeah, that's something else.
All right, so I guess ID and other things that people, women in particular, would carry are that were in that bag are missing. Very good.
Yeah.
All right, moving on. Of course, as Kim said, we're just going by what Kim said. It's her story. She said that she gave Aaliyah some money to get a taxi to go to this other barbecue. Has the police or anybody else ever been able to track down any taxi driver who picked up Aaliyah that night?
No, they didn't, and I don't even think they tried.
Oh, they didn't.
They just
okay.
They just came to the report. They took the report. They did check, the jail and hospital, seeing if there was a Jane Doe or anything. They did do that, but that was it.
Oh, that was it. All right, and of course, no taxi driver. Of course. I know you've done publicity. Of course, you have a Facebook page, and you've been working on this for almost 8 years, getting the word out about Aaliyah's disappearance. But no taxi driver has ever come forward either, right?
No taxi driver coming forward. There was no sightings of a taxi that night, or that was reported.
Okay. How much money, to remind everybody, how much money did Kim say she gave Aaliyah that night?
If I'm correct, I think it was $20.
$20. Being that you're from New York City, I've only ever been to New York City once and never took a taxi while I was there. Your opinion, would $20 in 2015 have been enough to take to finance a ride from where Kim lived to where the barbecue was?
Yes.
It would have been enough. Okay. What about to come back? If she had to take a taxi back, would that $20 have covered both directions?
No.
It wouldn't have. Okay. I think that's very important for everybody to remember that. Okay. So moving on. Regarding her phone, of course, it's still missing, just like Aaliyah is. But were you or anybody else in your family or the police ever able to get any phone records, any texts? For example, do we have any ping information where phone, the closest tower that might have been to her phone? What can you say about all of that?
No, the police never even tried to ping her phone to see what the last location was or track it or anything. Absolutely none. The family, we got into her phone records. Was able to log into a computer and look at her phone calls. She did make phone calls 4 o'clock that morning. One was to her and then another friend, but of course they were and didn't answer the call.
Right. All right. So, and just to remind everybody, given Kim's story, what time did she say that Aaliyah left her place?
Around midnight.
All right. And so 4 hours later, on the records that you've seen, almost, between 3 and 4 hours later, there are these calls. Are things on her phone records.
Yes.
Okay.
Phone call.
Okay. But no messages left, anything like that?
No.
Nope.
No, she didn't leave or anything, no.
Okay. And who was this friend? Was this a friend that would have been at one of the barbecues or somebody else?
Maybe. Maybe he would have been at the barbecue. I'm not sure. Well, he's a transgender.
Mm-hmm.
So yeah, because it was they live in a Brownsville section of Brooklyn, so it could have been that he was also, or she, also would have been at the barbecue.
Okay, so it's possible can you think of any reason, given what you know about their friendship, that Aaliyah would have called her at that time, or, were they really, really close? Do you think, for example, if Aaliyah was in trouble, is this somebody that Aaliyah would have called, or what?
I believe so, yes.
You believe that? Okay.
Yeah.
All right, so we got these phone records. Of course, no proof that Aaliyah was using her phone, but call to her mother, call to this friend, a few hours after she was at Kim's, seemingly. Unfortunately, though, no messages left. And regarding those calls, is it even clear if it was Aaliyah calling, how long the phone rang? Did she even attempt to leave a message, or was it like just call, let it ring once, and hang up? Can you even tell?
Because the sister and friend were asleep, they didn't get the call, but of course they woke up and saw this call, but no attempt to message me and laugh at all, so either.
Okay, very good. Moving on to this. Any sightings of Aaliyah that night? So, for example, she decided she wasn't going to take a taxi, she was going to go for a walk. Any realistic, believable sightings of Aaliyah in the area around Kim's place that night? Anybody that's ever come forward? None. Okay. Moving on. Any video cameras from that area that could be checked to see if Aaliyah was seen on any of them?
There were some, because along that street there were some stores or places of business, but for the most part, a few of them said they weren't working, and I think it was one that was working, and of course, the police to, get it. Well, I don't know exactly how that go, but maybe some affidavit to turn over those cameras. But the police never even attempted to.
Okay. So there are cameras that might have been able to see something that night, but they weren't checked.
Correct. And the cameras in the building that Kim lived in weren't working as well.
Yeah, that's very common. Thank you for bringing that up. That I think is very common. They might have been helpful. Okay. Moving on, I do have to ask you this. Regarding where Kim lives, is there a body of water nearby, a river, and was it searched?
It is a body of water. It's a very, it's dark over there, that side of town, because it has the overpass and it has the river. But was it searched? No. Not for my niece. It was searched. A few later, maybe even a month later, there was a female body found in the river.
Oh my!
And we wasn't sure, but once they did all their testing and everything, it was not my niece. But no, did they go in and do a search for my niece? No.
Okay. Now we're going to get to this letter a little bit later, but actually for people who are actually that we know for sure were in the apartment building where Kim, lived, and where Aaliyah would live with her sometimes. Did anybody who lived in that apartment building, to your knowledge, did anybody ever come forward to say, you know what, I heard something like that night. I think I saw something that night. Anything?
No.
Zero. No.
Zero.
No poundings, no screams. Let's just say no gunshots, nothing like that.
Nothing.
Okay. Let's talk a little bit more about Kim. Of course, we know, seemingly, that she has her story, that Aaliyah left, but it doesn't seem like Kim did anything when Aaliyah didn't come back. Even on the 16th, or not, on the 17th of August of 2015, that, seemingly she didn't call, to find out, hey, anybody in Aaliyah's family, or even try to call Aaliyah herself, what's going on. And your impression, I'm not saying that you made the phone call, but when your family did finally contact Kim to say, you know what, on the 18th, Aaliyah didn't show up for this birthday, where is she? Did Kim sound surprised that Aaliyah didn't show up? Or, please.
She didn't. She didn't sound surprised. She basically, like, you know how Aaliyah is. She'll call when she calls. She's mad at me and she's probably just not answering. She didn't sound surprised at all. And at one point, once we realized that Aaliyah was really missing and Kim was the last person to see her, we needed to have a description on what Aaliyah had on.
Right.
And Kim was very, let's say, she wasn't very cooperative. She did say because she was at church, and I guess I was interrupting her church time, but she was at church because it was just like okay, but I need to know this. What does she have on? And she would give me some information, but then I said, okay, I need to know some of her other intimate tattoos, because, as some people have tattoos that don't know.
Yep.
So that I need to know some of those, since you were your hurt partner. And, it was very hard to get information from her that day, but she said it was because she was in church.
Okay. As best as you can tell, how helpful was Kim? Did she put up any flyers? Did she go on any searches? Let's say a couple weeks after the disappearance occurred, did she continue to keep in contact with your family, checking in to see if there was any movement on the disappearance? How would you say, how did she act in those weeks after?
When we was putting the flyers up, because she was dealing with Aaliyah's dilemma, trying to plan that out of putting the flyers up, and no, she wasn't very helpful at first. It was my niece had to force her to, help with the surge and putting flyers and things up. At that time, after I got the description from her, I didn't speak to her anymore. It was my niece, and she did tell me that Kim was not very helpful.
Okay. Your family's impression, did Kim, once again, we're just talking opinions here. Did Kim appear to be sad about Aaliyah going missing?
No.
Okay. Did Kim, to your knowledge, you spoke to her, if she ever said anything to you or anybody else in your family, did she ever voice her own theory? As, of course she could say, well, as she said maybe at the beginning, she'll be, how she is, she'll come back in a few days, but what was Kim saying 2 weeks later, let's say, or a month later when Aaliyah still hadn't shown back up? Did she ever voice a theory as to what could have happened?
No, she didn't voice a theory. She wasn't even posting on her or her family weren't even posting, like, the missing posters or to say, have you seen this girl or anything? And she didn't call and say, well, did anybody hear from Aaliyah yet, or nothing.
Okay. All right. Moving on to this. Now, this is maybe, given what we've been talking about so far, it's maybe probably going to be a little surprising to the listeners, but actually, when Aaliyah would be living with Kim, it wasn't just the two of them living in Kim's place together. Kim did have a daughter that lived there as well. Is it your understanding that the daughter was also home that night when Kim and Aaliyah came home from this barbecue, and then Aaliyah went back out. Is your understanding that Kim's daughter was there too?
I believe it was the son that was there.
The son was there. Okay. The son was there. Okay. And did he back up his mother's story? Do you think police talked to him? What do you know about that?
If they talk, I know they talked to Kim. Not sure if they talked to him at all, and I don't know what story if he backed her story up or not, because I never heard from him.
Okay. All right. So we have to keep this in mind. We know how this looks. Woman goes missing. Of course, we're usually talking about men, dare I say, in these types of situations where a guy says, yeah, she just went out the door. I never saw her again. This is, of course, a situation where a woman is saying, yeah, she went out the door and never was seen again. But we do have somebody else who was actually there. Of course, it's a child, and probably an older one, an adult son, right?
Yeah, they're both husbands and adults.
Okay. All right. And but we do have to also talk about this. Did Kim say that she and Aaliyah had an argument? So it wasn't just that Aaliyah decided she was going to go to this barbecue. They actually had an argument about before Aaliyah took off, correct?
Correct. And those are her words.
Those are Kim's words.
Those are her words, that they had an argument because she did not want to go to the next party.
Okay. All right. But we just have to remember, it seems that one other person would have been privy or a witness to all of this. And so I want everybody to keep that in mind. This is just not two women alone in an apartment together. There was a third party there. Okay. What about all of Aaliyah's stuff? Did Kim ever, of course, Aaliyah was staying there at least some of the time. I'm guessing she had clothes and maybe books from school, things there. Did Kim ever give all of that stuff back to your family?
No.
Do you even know where any of Aaliyah's stuff is now here in 2023?
No, not what Kim's house. We don't even know what was that. She didn't blood. She didn't look for it. She didn't anything. We only have the stuff. Aaliyah Mother's has the stuff that's at her house.
All right.
Whatever was at Kim, we don't know what it was, if it was much, because she's never said a word.
Okay. So even, for example, she's going to be a nurse. I'm guessing there's some books or however maybe they're using iPads and everything these days. I haven't been in school in 30 years. But nothing like that ever came back from Kim's?
No.
Nothing. Okay. So as best we can tell, Aaliyah went missing with whatever she carried, her ID and other items in that went missing. She goes missing, and also her phone has never been found. As for everything else, it's a big mystery as to, I'm guessing Aaliyah did have stuff over there, but it seems Kim might have kept it or something. Okay, moving on. Now, going back just a little bit ago, we had talked about how, this is an apartment building of some type. And, I know living in a condo building, you hear a lot of things that go on in the building, but seemingly nobody heard or saw anything that night. However, there was a letter that was eventually popped up. Was it sent to somebody in your family? Why don't you tell the listeners about this letter right now? When did this occur, etc.?
Okay, hold it. My memory serves me right. This was last year. I remember. She said so much. But my sister, received an anonymous letter in the mail. Well, it wasn't anonymous. It had a return address on it, which was a bogus address.
Huh.
And the letter stated that at least someone in that building that Aaliyah mother lives in sent Aaliyah on a drug run, and she never came back. And that was the first time we even heard anything of that sort. And there was no other proof or evidence or that Aaliyah even was friends with anyone in the building. Her or her mother, they did, but they were mainly in Best Side, where my mom lived, or around that one. That's where her mother went to church at. So we all grew up in the Best Side area, and that's where they were mainly at. Or she was at her sister's house on the other side of Best Side, on Vernon. So it was strange that the letter implicated someone that lived in that building, because there was never any evidence that she was friends with anyone in the building.
Okay. And so when you say this had a bogus return address, is it an address that didn't exist, or when you check the address, it was like for a 7-Eleven or something?
Right. Yeah. Sorry. It was an address for like a business, something of.
Okay. Yeah. All right. And to your knowledge, does Kim, Aaliyah, or anybody else have any connection to that address? Do you think Aaliyah had ever been to that? Whatever that business is, do you think Kim had ever been to that business? Anything like that? Or maybe Kim's son ever been to that business, dare I ask? Any ideas?
I wouldn't know. I wouldn't know if any of them ever been to the business. I do know that the address was in the Bronx, which is another, it's quite a ways from Brooklyn.
Yeah.
I have known Aaliyah to frequent the Bronx, but then again, she was an adult. We didn't know every move she made.
Right.
But from what we know, being in the Bronx, no.
Okay, very good. And you did say, just to clarify this was not a letter that popped up like a month later. This didn't happen till last year in 2022?
Correct.
Wow, all right. So like 7 years after she goes missing, this letter out of nowhere pops up. To your memory, anything like this ever happened before in those preceding 7 years? Like maybe being that you have a Facebook page and maybe another letter, nothing like that had ever been stated until this letter showed up.
Exactly. Nothing's never. I mean, there's been other theories, but they weren't. Well, I think it was just people talking and making up things what they think could have happened.
Yeah, sure.
Whatever. Nothing like this.
Okay. Was this letter, do you still have this letter? Did you give it to the police? What did you do with it?
My sister gave it to the police, but, of course I have a screenshot of it.
All right, very good. So you at least have a screenshot of it. That was very smart of you to do. Was this typed out or was it handwritten?
Handwritten.
Handwritten, okay. All right, so the story is that this was a drug run gone bad. This is what the letter said.
Correct.
Okay. Do you know if anybody in your family or anybody has ever asked Kim about this letter, and do you know what she had to say about it?
No, I don't ask, but I'm pretty sure maybe Aaliyah's sister, Zalema, may have asked her about it. But there was no, if she would have given her an answer, my niece would have told me. So I don't think Kim responded. I said she didn't know anything about it.
Okay. To your knowledge, once again, I know it's been almost 8 years. Is there any reason for you to believe that Aaliyah and or Kim would have been involved in any sort of drug run or anything at all?
No. Like I said, Aaliyah was the perk and didn't indulge in alcohol and marijuana, but to sell or runs or anything, no. I ordered it because I'm not exactly sure where Kim worked, but I think she had a well-established job. So I don't think that she would have jeopardized it by doing. I don't know. I can't say.
Yeah. Okay. All right. It's just nothing. I mean, I guess what we're saying is when that letter popped up, and of course anybody could have written it. It could have been written by anybody. But that is the first allegation of something like that you have ever heard since Aaliyah went missing in August of 2015.
Correct.
Okay, very good. So we have this letter pops up. Can you even maybe look back? I guess let's just say that letter popped up a year ago. Was there something that went on regarding Aaliyah's disappearance, like in the news or something, that could have spurred maybe, a scammer or something to write that? The way you look back at it when it, just popped out of nowhere. What, is there something maybe that could have happened that would have spurred somebody to write this letter for her to believe it was fake?
It could have been, because at that time, if I'm remembering right, we did get some national coverage with BCMT, and they did a showcase on missing people, because it was during the time of the girl that went missing, and her boyfriend had done something to her.
Gabby Petito.
Yeah, that's it, Gabby Petito.
Okay.
And their big uproar about how the disparity is between missing black women.
That's true.
And missing white women. So that segment on that show showcased Aaliyah's case. And it was, not too far after that later showed up.
Okay, so there could be something there. Were any other young black women featured in this segment?
Yes, there were.
There were. Do you know if, I realize you have your own life to live, but I have to ask, to your knowledge, did any of those other families get some type of letter like that seemed maybe not to be totally real?
No.
Okay. All right, so we have to compare it to that. Very good. Okay. All right, so we have this unverifiable story. They get home. Aaliyah wants to go back out. Not totally crazy. And Kim doesn't want to go. That's totally reasonable too. And Aaliyah allegedly walks out the door, never to be seen again. To your knowledge, I don't know if you've kept tabs on her or not. What has Kim done with her life in the past almost 8 years? Do you know anything about what her son has done? I think you might have told me the son was in the military or something. About the daughter, have they kept their noses clean or what? You know anything about that?
Don't know anything about them at all. I don't even follow them on Facebook. I believe I was friends with Kim on Facebook. I checked a while back. I noticed we weren't friends anymore, so I don't know if I deleted her because maybe emotional that time when she deleted me. I'm not.
Okay. Let's move on to this. I realize, given I've done like 300 of these interviews now, I know that a lot of people are going to be saying, but I need to ask you some questions about Aaliyah herself. Was she having problems with anyone else? It seems like, as you said, tumultuous relationship. We know those things can be unpredictable, but was Aaliyah having any problems with anybody else? Being that she was in a relationship with another woman, could there have been another woman who wanted to be in a relationship with, or even a guy who might have been stalking her, anything like that? Did she ever talk about being depressed, suicidal, anything like that? Now, like in hindsight, that you look at this?
No, not at all.
Not at all. No. Okay. Let's move on to this. Let's talk. Let's bring this all back to your family. Maybe I should ask you this, and I meant to ask you this earlier, Tasha. I'll also ask you now. Do you remember, like, the last time you saw and or spoke to Aaliyah? How long was this before she went missing?
This probably was maybe, we were just going talking on social media, on Facebook.
Okay.
That probably maybe maybe a week before.
Okay.
And it was pop up, and she was, it was nothing seemed to be wrong. We were laughing and, making jokes and stuff on the Facebook page, because she had made a Facebook post saying all my cousins, post a picture, and as her aunts, we started flooding her page, and she was like, I didn't say y'all, I was saying the cousins. So we kept doing like all night long, and she was just laughing.
That's funny.
So,
Okay. In that conversation, did Kim's name ever come up?
No.
Not at all. Okay. And can you just, once again, I'm just asking for you and Aaliyah talking back and forth. How much would you say in all the conversations that you had with Aaliyah that Kim's name ever came up?
She talked about her a lot.
Okay.
And so, like I said, I'm Aaliyah's aunt, so maybe she didn't confide or tell me things, but I'm just gonna keep it honest. She never said anything negative to me about Kim.
Let me ask you this: do you think that Aaliyah loved Kim?
Yes.
She was really into Kim.
Yes.
Okay. Very good. Okay. Let's move on to this. How bad have the last almost 8 years been, Tasha, for you? Of course, you're her aunt, but of course, your sister's her mother. I mean, how bad has this been the last 8 years?
It's been horrible. It's definitely horrible. Just the not know. It's the not knowing, and of what happened or where she is, if she's dead, if she's alive, if she's hurt. Is she calling out for us? It's the unknown. And it's horrible. Her mom just recently went through breast cancer, and around every step of the way, through every appointment, and she didn't have that, and that was horrible for her.
Yeah.
So it's just unbelievable, and so much has had our family since Aaliyah's been gone. She doesn't even know about my grandmother, which raised Aaliyah. You know, she passed in 2019. My mom, which is Aaliyah's grandmother, she passed in 2017. You know, I lost my son last year, and all these things. She's gone, and we're just devastated.
Yeah. Yes, of course. What about, of course, she has siblings. Of course, I'm talking to you. I'm interviewing you for this episode. Are you getting a lot of support from, like, her, Aaliyah's siblings as far as getting the word out there and doing interviews? And like you said, there was a segment last year that featured, how young black women don't get enough attention when it comes to disappearances. Are you getting a lot of support, Tasha, in what you're doing, running the Facebook page, etc.?
I am. I took on this role and to be the quote-unquote spokesperson, or just to spearhead the Facebook page and any other thing, because that's just the way I've been with anything. Whether it's putting together a night day party for the grandmother, that was always me. So it was just natural for me to have done it. And yes, her sisters, our cousins, her aunts, everyone has been so supportive. We're still being very active, just to keep the word out, because I'm not going to let anyone forget.
Right.
I'm not. Never going to stop searching for her until she's found.
Right. Okay. Who is mainly this, if your family's going to, and I know that your experience with NYPD has not been very good, but who is like the point person for that? If somebody's going to contact of course, New York City police do have a missing persons unit. Who is the person who usually heads that up in your family to contact them?
Me.
You do it. Okay, you do.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right, and I have to ask, when was the last time you had a meaningful conversation with anyone in the NYPD?
I got a call back because Detective Ramos isn't on the case anymore. But the detective, let's see, when the last time he called me back? It's probably been a good maybe 6 months. I leave messages. Oh, he did this week. He comes in tomorrow. Just don't get a call back.
So you're saying it's been quite a while since you had a meaningful conversation with anyone there?
Correct.
Okay. Would you say that it's been over a year?
Yeah. A meaningful conversation.
Yeah, meaningful where you had, let's say, a 15-minute conversation with somebody there about Aaliyah and anything like that.
Yeah, it's been over a year.
Over a year. Okay.
I've had conversations where they just say, well, the case is still where it is. We haven't been solid leads, or, just that. But a meaningful conversation, no.
Okay. I brought it up, but I'm going to allow you to talk about it. Your Facebook page, a website, anything like that. Why don't you tell the listeners about that right now, how they can go and, of course, like it, share it, do whatever else. Facebook page, website, TikTok account, Instagram, anything like that. You can tell the listeners about it right now, Tasha.
Okay. We do have a Facebook page. It is called Help Us Find Aaliyah, or you could do hashtag Help Us Find Aaliyah and then pull it right up. And on the page, there's many pictures of her with different hairstyles because she changed up a lot. The information about her disappearance, also pictures with her family and our contact information. So if anyone knows anything, no matter how small you may think it is, or if you don't think it's important, please feel free to email at Miss Wonderful with 2 L MISSWONDERFULL if you don't want to be known or just wanted to be an anonymous information, or me directly 704-491-6020. And again, if you don't want to give your name or think that something happened and you don't want to be in trouble, just point us to the right direction so we can get the police involved and ever have to let you know who you are.
Okay. I'm going to ask you, why don't you give out the Facebook page name one more time, if you could.
The Facebook page is Help Us Find Aaliyah.
Okay, very good. Any final words, Tasha, before we complete this interview?
Just want to say that we love her. She has a very loving and close-knit family. We miss her so much. If anybody can help us, we would definitely appreciate it. And I do appreciate you for allowing me to come on your podcast to see a story.
Tosh, you're very welcome. This is what I do, and I hope that you and I can stay in touch. I'll continue to try to give you the best advice that I can, given what I think I know about disappearances. And all those conversations from now on will be off the record. So I always want you to feel very comfortable, contacting me, either calling me, texting me, or emailing me, whatever. I'll try to give you the best help that I can. I promise.
Thank you. I appreciate that.
You're very welcome. And I appreciate you being on this episode of Unfound.
Okay, thank you.
You're welcome. And that was my July 25th, 2023 interview with Tasha Rice, aunt of Aliyah Boomer. I thank Tasha for joining me and all of you on this episode. For my summation, I'll start here. On Unfound Live for August 7th, 2023, a listener known as Rockford made 2 comments, and I think you can quickly understand how they can be connected to Aaliyah's case, although Rockford was not referencing Aaliyah's disappearance when he brought them up. The first comment by Rockford in the Unfound Live chat, and by the way, I'm reading this because these are both very insightful. I'm not defending all law enforcement or claim there isn't bias/laziness, but it's hard to have A, the right to go missing, and B, a thorough investigation every time someone goes missing. I responded to that comment, and then Rockford wrote this. Yep, we agree on those examples, and we agree on the need for cynicism on the part of investigators. Yet, there are plenty of cases in your catalog where there's no evidence it wasn't voluntary. Once again, an insightful comment. You can surely see how both statements are relevant to Aaliyah. Yes, she was an adult. Yes, this is the United States where people can leave their lives if they want. Yes, just because someone is in a relationship and disappears does not mean the significant other caused the disappearance. And yes, if police got out the dogs, helicopters, drones, boats, ATVs, and everything else every time a disappearance happened, every police department in the United States would be broke, including NYPD. So, this is all true. However, I want to concentrate on the quote-unquote no evidence it wasn't voluntary part of Rockford's statement. The questions are these. Why don't we have that evidence? Is it because there was never any involuntary evidence to collect? Is it because somebody got rid of all of the involuntary evidence? Or is it because the involuntary evidence exists and for some reason people can't find it? The answer to all of those questions is, it's hard to say. And my opinion on why it's so hard to say is because officers put in charge of the investigations didn't know what they were doing when they first got the call. This would be relevant to Aaliyah's disappearance and many others. They didn't ask the right questions. They couldn't quickly put the disappearance into a particular category so as to better determine if the disappearance was voluntary or involuntary. They don't take even 10 minutes to ask questions about the missing person. Because, as I continue to say, disappearances are about people, not circumstances. To go along with the theme of this episode, police can't be trusted to do a professional job. So no evidence existing should not be a surprise, no matter what kind of disappearance it is. And we can't forget this. Despite adults being allowed to walk out of their lives, and even if there is proof that is what happened, police have to find a way to satisfy the investigative desires of those families too. My attitude is, given that any civilization must rely on the rule of law, when police show up, they must be able to quickly get to this question: has the law been broken or not? As best as they can determine in the moment. Of course, the only way to do that is understanding disappearances and asking the right questions, and police having knowledge of many disappearance cases. And given all the disappearances like Aaliyah's that have been solved, with the men in those women's lives being proven responsible, police defaulting to involuntary disappearance makes the most sense, until facts come to light to make them think otherwise. Not saying Kim harmed Aaliyah, but given the story Kim told, without any facts to back her up, like video or a taxi driver or something, police should have treated Kim and anyone like her as a suspect, and go about the investigation with that in mind. And yes, what I'm saying is, in these types of cases, the gender of the person telling the story doesn't matter. The man said, the woman said, it's all the same. If you'd like to hear and read my very in-depth analysis of Aaliyah's disappearance, along with more explanation and examination of the man said / the woman said type of disappearance, please go to patreon.com/Unfound Podcast and sign up to partake in the Unfound blog. Until then, I leave the public theorizing up to you. And that's the program. Right now, while you are in your podcast platform, Spotify, YouTube, iTunes, wherever, give Unfound a 5-star review, a thumbs up, whatever that platform allows. I thank you for listening. I'm Ed Densel, and you've just finished this episode of Unfound.